It took 1 week, but South Carolina is a top 10 team back in the top 10 spots in the AP poll. Fantastic job after their win against Virginia Tech. We talk about what the ceiling is now and how much higher it is than it was before, considering what we saw around the SEC in week one. Spoiler alert, I think it only gets higher for this team, not just from what we saw from LaNorris Sellers and company, but from what we saw in some of the opponents they're going to have to face. We talk about that and Dabo's dumb blank comments. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. We got a great show for you. We got a quick show for you, and we got a lot to get to. I appreciate everyone who's listening, making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. This episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Let's get into it. Got a great show. First and foremost, let's give a shout out to the swag in the back. You guys have been asking me to get more South Carolina stuff or any South Carolina stuff in the background for the show. And for those of you watching on YouTube, hope you're happy. We have some great additions from the game. Some of the best hats in the world. These old school, I don't know how many of you are old like me. I shouldn't date myself too much, but 39, grew up in the 90s. These hats were like the best. They were the best. Everyone has them. Listen, the Cox one, I think everyone knows about. That was obviously very popular. This one over my right shoulder, that's the old school with the cursive handwriting. Love it. I'm going to stop talking about it only because I know we got some listeners on audio as well. But you guys might know what I'm talking about. Just picture it in your mind. And they have been a great sponsor for the show as well. Before we get into the show, real quick, we're talking top 10 rankings. We're talking about what the ceiling is. Give them a brief little look at South Carolina State. I keep wanting to say Upstate because that was one of the teams that we played in the Peach Belt when I was playing in school. But we'll talk about South Carolina State, what we want to see from that upcoming game. And then last but not least, part of this is going to be just to toot my own horn, guys. I'm being honest with you. I love you to death. I hope you guys like me. But if you saw Dabo Swinney's comments yesterday, if you saw Dabo, I'm not making this up. If you saw Dabo Swinney's comments about him and LSU and how 65, he'd grade them a 65, give Clemson a 58, and then you saw Brian Kelly's response. Yours truly is the one that asked Brian Kelly that question. So it was a pretty cool day for me. We'll talk about that and how it impacts South Carolina and how stupid Dabo Swinney continues to be and how glad we are that we have Shane Beamer. Let's get into the show. South Carolina jumps into the top 10 after the week one win against Virginia Tech. Some of the other teams that slid around them. I got to say, I was surprised when I saw this. They were 11th in the coaches poll, which should not have been a shock to anybody because with Notre Dame losing, I had a hard time believing they were going to slip behind Clemson and behind Notre Dame. But then being the AP voters being convinced enough that they deserve to jump 3 spots after their very convincing win. And when they pulled away late against Virginia Tech, they become a top 10 team. Love to see that. Love to see that. I just very much feel like that's where this team deserves to be. Maybe that's not where they end up at the end of the season. I don't know. The schedule's tough. We're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. But being ranked in the top 10 right now is exactly where they deserve to be. One of the cool things that we've been watching happen over the last several months is most of the offseason, like last year, was spent with doubt, talking about all this doubt, talking about, they're going to go 5-7. The ceiling is 7-5, blah, blah, blah. Now the ceiling is obviously higher and there's been more positive talk, but there's still this whole idea of, well, how are they going to replace all these people? How are they going to replace everybody on the defense that they lost? How good really is LaNorris Sellers? It took 1 week and it feels like everyone kind of saw or was reminded like, oh man, what was I thinking about last year when I was talking about LaNorris Sellers not being good or like not being a good thrower of the football? What was I talking like? Because it took 1 game for all that to kind of go out the wayside. It took 1 game for Shane Beamer and the staff to kind of show like didn't allow anyone in the end zone against Virginia Tech, beat a Power 4 team by double digits in the first game of the season. And again, I say this like Alabama played a D+ game and got their ass beat. Excuse my language, but they got their ass beat. South Carolina played a C+ game, different opponents, maybe. We don't know how good Florida State is. C+ game, and they beat a team by double digits. That's a big deal. You obviously want them performing at the highest level each and every week. You want them firing on all cylinders. You want the run game going. You want Faison and Attaway to be able to run through giant holes on the offensive line. You want the defense to be lights out, all that kind of stuff. And it kind of was, at least for the scoring and stuff like that, scoring defense. You want all those things to happen. But you also, there's something to be said. Like, you're not going to play an A+ game every single week of the season. That just doesn't happen. It's a tough physical game. It's a long, long season. You played a C+ game and you won by double digits. Think about what kind of game they played last year against Old Dominion, how scary that was when they almost lost to Old Dominion. So I look at this, and maybe I'm just being the sunshine pumper that people keep, or like one person keeps telling me I am. Maybe that's the case. But I just think that, yeah, maybe you want to look at the Virginia Tech game and say, well, listen, I don't think they're world beaters. They're not going to make the playoff. But I look at it in a different way, and I think, listen, that is not anywhere close to the ceiling of what they're capable of playing like. It's not. LSU, what they did to Clemson, that feels close to the ceiling of what that team's capable of. Maybe the only thing you're missing is they're able to get the receivers more involved, not just Aaron Anderson. I don't know. But like, that feels close to the ceiling of what you would expect from LSU. I don't think we're anywhere near scratching the surface. And granted, you didn't have to be in like that great against Virginia Tech in comparison to playing at Clemson or like Texas going to Ohio State. But either way, your takeaway from that game becomes, listen, like you were playing a team that was a Power 4 team in a neutral site away from home. And it was close for a while, but you pulled away. You scored in two phases of the game. And then I look at the other stuff too, that they're finally starting to get credit for. And this is what I'm mainly excited for. They're starting to get credit for things that they just weren't getting credit for before. Shane Beamer being acknowledged as like a really, really good coach. Clayton White's defense finally getting the credit he deserved. Took 5 damn years, but him getting the credit for the defense. And then you started seeing some of the stuff in the game that was like, I rewatched it the other day, and the stuff that you come away with, that how impressive it was. Fred Johnson, J.R. Johnson. That kid he's a star. He's a star. He's like, I mean, he is NFL middle linebacker built. 6'4", 240 or 250, whatever it is. I think it's 250, 245 maybe. I mean, built like a Mack truck, hits hard, can drop back in coverage, can move his hips around and drop back in coverage, get interceptions, got hands like, brother, what are we talking about? Like I don't think that's going to fall off a table after what I saw in the first game. And we knew that was coming. Justin Okoronkwo, the transfer from Alabama, the kid from Germany. I feel good about this one. I was very right about this one, and I was pumped. And I told you guys, because no one had heard of him, and with good reason. It came from Germany, right? But there were people on the staff that told me directly, if that kid was a kid that was born in America, he would have been a 5-star recruit. 6'2", 230, can run like he's shot out of a cannon. So like, then you start hearing stuff. It went very quickly from being, how are they going to replace all these people, to things like LaNorris Sellers is legitimately one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the country. He's legitimately a Heisman contending quarterback, regardless of the record at the end of the year. He's legitimately a top 2 right now projected draft pick, a top 2 quarterback in this class for next year's draft. And then I saw something the other day from a credible account that was talking about Fred Johnson. It was Fred Johnson might be an early name to keep an eye on for LB1, linebacker 1, the first linebacker taken off the board in the 2027 draft. So I say all that, it almost makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable because you don't want to jinx anything. You don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But I do think it's a testament that needs to be acknowledged of these are all the things that we kind of saw coming. The coaching staff clearly saw coming. And again, all of the doubt that went into this team in the offseason has now very quickly turned into, man, that game October 11th against LSU, you might be 5-0 going to that game. I think they got a tough one at Missouri. I love that they get Vandy and they get Vandy and Kentucky at home. I think the Mizzou game's gonna be tough, but you're looking at a situation where it's like, yeah, I mean, like, I think people are starting to understand, like, It's hard to tackle LaNorris Sellers for 4 quarters. It's hard to tackle something like that for 4 quarters. People get tired. Hands on your hips. Not only do you not want to chase him around, you don't want to have to do what that guy in the very first drive had to do, which was try to lower your shoulder and make him not run you over. Right? Like, it's just people don't want to do that for 4 quarters. So that is all for the first part of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what we want to see from South Carolina State game coming up on Saturday. And I'm going to, like I said, keep it quick and tell you something as well about the Dabo thing, which I was pretty proud of, and just one of the things that was said about Shane Beamer in comparison. So before we do that, got to pay some bills. Monarch Money. We brought them up at the start of the show. So happy they are back on. Because they have been great, helpful. They've been super great and helpful in my life, and they can be super great and helpful in yours as well. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, right? Whatever it's a 401k or it's properties or investments, when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. And if you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and feel like you are finally in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I tell you what, I did this before I got the ring. Got my finances in order, figured out where I was kind of wasting money. It's way more than just an app. It's like having your own personal CFO. It is awesome. Do not let your financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Also want to give a shout out to our other friends at FanDuel. NFL kicks off this weekend. Obviously, we had college football this past weekend, but the NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready with kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I personally love it because now that I live in a state where I'm allowed to use it, it's everything's at your fingertips. You can live bet. You can bet on props, season-long props. You can bet on whether it's like total passing yards, total receiving yards, touchdowns, any of those things, who's going to win the MVP, or if you want to do live in-game bets or just run a parlay up on a weekend, you can do all of that and more with our friends at FanDuel. If you are ready to play, download the FanDuel app today, right now, by visiting FanDuel.com and get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Remember, if you win, you get $300 in free bets after. We'll be right back with more Locked On Gamecocks right after this. All right, let's get back into the show and go through the second part here. I'm beat. My stepdad, my mom, Pastor Patty Sue, if you guys follow her on Twitter, I don't know if we talked about this before. She is a pastor in Lexington, South Carolina. Her and my stepdad came to visit, and your boy decided to go play his old man in pickleball. And apparently he is really good at pickleball because he plays all the time. And I need an ice bath. I'll just say it. Anyway, back to the show. Speaking of ice bath, let's get into the SC State game this weekend. One, let me gripe. Let me just gripe for a second. This is what pisses me off about the current state of college football, okay? There's not a ton of good games on this weekend. South Carolina, SC State is where our attention will be, right? I'm over here in Baton Rouge. So I got to go do some stuff on campus the day of the game for LSU and La Tech. I think that there's the SEC stuff for the day. Auburn and Ball State. I got an Auburn fiance. They're playing at whatever time. Also still living in Louisiana. ULM's playing Bama, which would be hilarious if they won. And so then the big marquee game where game day is going to be is OU and Michigan. All 5 of the games I just mentioned start within 45 minutes of each other. Like, what are we like? Why? I'm happy this is a night game in Williams-Brice. I'm happy it's a night game, so it's like, avoid the heat for one. It should be a lot of fireworks. It should be a great welcome home for the first home game of the year. I'm excited for that. What do we want to see out of this game? What do we want to see? It's very simple. First and foremost, no injuries, right? Second off, want to be in a situation where like you want to see LaNorris get his numbers. You want to see the defense continue to look good. Maybe they hold SC State out of the end zone and you go 2 full games not allowing a single touchdown. Would love to see that as well. That's just from a selfish standpoint. Would love to see both those things. LaNorris get some padded stats, and then obviously the defense continue to be as good as they were a week ago. The other stuff I want to see the focus, and I want to see if this team is able to come out for 4 quarters and push someone around, because they didn't do that in game 1. They won, and it was a good game. We did not see them push around anybody for 4 quarters. It felt very much like they were kind of trying some stuff out. They were going to give too much of the playbook away. But I know in the first quarter when we saw LaNorris run through somebody and score the first touchdown of the game, I expected to see him in more design run plays than we did. I don't think we're going to see that this weekend against SC State. There's no reason to. There's no reason to run LaNorris this weekend. Maybe you get like 1 or 2, but near the goal line or something. I don't know. But there's no reason to make him get unnecessary contact if you don't have to. So the 2 things I want to see the most has nothing to do with the defense, LaNorris. I would love to see some freshman receivers get involved. One of the things that was kind of concerning and just surprising, I mean, you looked at the numbers from Saturday's game. Nick had 3 catches, right? But for the most, there's one other person that called. Murph had a catch, I think, for 21 yards, 23 yards. And I want to say Mazio had 1, but he might have been shut out because he had a drop or there was an incomplete pass. Either way, a majority of your completions from LaNorris, the 12 of them, a majority of them went to the tight ends and some to the running backs. Like, I would like to see the receivers more involved. I'd like to see them get more targets. I'd also like to see them not even drops, right? Mistake-free football. Can we play 60 minutes of mistake-free football? All those things would be great. I know how good Dylan Stewart can be. I want to see the other side of the edge rushers and see who else can continue to build. I thought they looked good last week. I thought they looked really good last week. So that part as well. But the biggest thing I want to see is I would love to see 2 100-yard rushers. And I know that's greedy, but I would love to see Attaway. I would love to see Faison get 100 yards apiece behind this offensive line that struggled and figure out some things this week where they're able to push some people around. There's no reason you shouldn't, right? There's no reason you shouldn't. Let me look at the last time. Like there's just no reason you shouldn't be able to do that, right? So that part for me, I am. Let me see. The last time they played was in 2022. Why did I say it like that? 2022. They lost 38-3. The 3 times you played them, I mean, they're obviously very, very far apart. But it was, let's see here. It was in 20. Sorry, this is horrible radio. My bad. No, it was 50-10. 50-10. So my question would be, this is when Rattler was the quarterback. My question would be, this is a game where you had, oh my God, you didn't have that. You had 404 yards of offense. Would love to see that with a 5 in front of it. Would love to see that with a 5 in front of it. Yards per play. Would love to see that with over 6.5. If 7 would be nice as well. How about the punting? Can the punting continue on, right? That was really impressive, I thought, in the first game, especially replacing one of the fan favorites and also one of the best punters in the program with Kai Kroger. So that's the stuff I want to see. Can they figure out a way to run the football effectively? The last time they played, 2022, they had 31 rush attempts for 185 yards. They had 5 rushing TDs as well. But the big thing I want to see, I don't care about how many rushing touchdowns they score in this game. The big thing I would love to see that yards per rush be over 5 yards per play. They had 6 last time they played them. I would love to see that upwards of 5 and 6. I want to see those guys get a little bit more touches in between tackles, but where they can able to have more success. Because you got to find out pretty quickly if you're going to have to be a team that can run the ball effectively between the tackles, or if you're going to have to be something that gets outside more, a little bit more stuff in the zone, and again get LaNorris more involved as well. So that's what I want to see. Last but not least, I want to get into this very last thing because I have to make a quick episode tonight. So yesterday, I'm at LSU's press conference with Brian Kelly, and it comes out right beforehand. that Dabo Swinney had a comment. And we all knew Dabo was an idiot. Like, probably, I don't want to say he's a great dude, but I don't know. But like Dabo, right before Kelly starts talking, he has a soundbite that goes pretty viral, and he says, "Yeah, I mean, it was like having a final exam on the first day of class, and they got a 65 and we got a 58. Neither team played great." And when I saw this, my eyes lit up, and I was like, "There's no way. This has to be AI. There's no way he said this." And then I started like racking my brain. I was like, "No, he's said some pretty stupid crap before. He has said a lot of stupid crap before. Surely he didn't say this though." Text the guy that reported it. I was like, "Trust you as a source. This is real, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I hand up immediately. Ask Brian Kelly, Coach. Dabo said that he characterized the game as blah blah. I read back the quote. It's like, just wondering how you would assess your team and grade your team after week 1. And the soundbite he gave was priceless. And he was like, "I thought we dominated in the second half." So he's either a really good grader for his team, or he's just really tough on us, or maybe he didn't see the second half. I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to see the second half. And I sat there with the biggest Grinch smile on my face, because it was like, anytime Dabo gets shoved in a locker, it's hilarious. 2, could I believe Brian Kelly gave me that answer? And then it went everywhere. So it was a really cool moment. But I say that to say this. 1,000%, I'm bringing that up on our South Carolina podcast because I was really proud of that moment. It was really cool. It was everywhere. My friends were sending it to me. They were getting notifications from Sports Center and ESPN. And it was me that asked the question. And I was honestly terrified to do it, because I was like, what if this is fake? Or what if he just is like, I'm not going to respond to that, and I just wasted the question. It's stupid. So that was a really cool moment for me to do that. It also brought me back to this too, guys. Like how many times when you watch Dabo speak, especially, they might have a really good football team still, but how many times you watch him speak and think, at the very least, like, I am so glad that we have this guy in charge, Shane Beamer, in comparison to Dabo Swinney. I know he doesn't have the same national titles. I know that. Everyone knows that. That's what they are living off those for sure. That's great. But like, I think we all know and get a good feel of where the program's headed, and how good of a feeling is it to know that like Beamer has said some hokey stuff before, no pun intended, but not like that. Not like that. He doesn't just step in it like that and say something that's stupid. And if he does, he usually just calls himself out about it. That was unbelievable. Anyway, I told you we had to have a quick show today. Parents are in town. We got to go spend some time with them. Appreciate y'all. Hope you're having a great week. We'll be back tomorrow with a preview episode. We'll be back Friday as well. We'll get back to more of the daily stuff because they're heading out here soon. And that's all I got. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday night, Thursday morning, whenever you're listening to this. Really, really cannot say thank you enough for how much I appreciate y'all for listening. And we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, go Cox.